Hunting our bus the journey onward by Master Atlan, Chapter 54, Red Fangs. He attacked my baby! Stop fighting! What is wrong with you? He has no control. He's just like the rest of his family. Shut the fuck up. That's enough, kid. The officers pulled him away from the parents helping up their weeping children. They escorted him to their car. I hope you know what you've done. Of course he knew. That's why he did it. He huffed a few drops of blood coming out of his nose where they got a lucky shot. But even as he slid into the back seat, he knew one thing. He didn't feel sorry for what he did. Hunting. So which one is he? Nora asked as she pulled out the binoculars to get a better view. She focused in on the side of an orange-haired faunus skating around on the beacon pathways. The Valkyrie snickered and settled in on her position comfortably. Tell me when you're ready to begin the operation. We got all day, and we're in the perfect position for reconnaissance. The boys looked around at all the odd looks aimed their way. They didn't know what was possessing Nora to lay on the pavement so obviously with a pair of binoculars. Then again, they failed to understand her most of the time. The least they could do was stand around her, so her skirt didn't ride up, and give a free peep for the wondering public. And Keith was squeezing the bridge of his nose and let out a strangled sigh before looking down at his eager friend. Nora, is this really necessary? He appreciated her thought, but there was hoping, and then leading the charge herself. And why are you two here? You know Nora dragged me along, and I was curious. Naruto shrugged with a grin, and his ears flicked about him. You got your eyes on the girl. I had to see for myself and give her my condolences. His partner. Everybody, silence, you fools! Nora barked. She continued to peer through her binoculars before leering and snickering lowly. I have her in my sights, Private Nuzaka, and am I correct in guessing that feisty feline with the wonderful hair is our target? Yeah, that's her. Kiba's face actually started to gain a little color from admitting to his interest. He scratched his head. Look, maybe we shouldn't do this today. I'm pretty sure watching you go all soldier Nora on this has sapped me of energy. We should. Are you mad? Nora snapped back up to her feet and slapped him across the cheek. The boys all winced before Nora jumped up to her toes to pull his face towards her. No way am I going to let you walk away from this. I told you Mama Nora was here to help you every step of the way. Is she trying to be a general or a mother? Knowing Nora, both. We must live in the moment. No regrets. Take every last chance to live life to the fullest. Nora declared, emphasizing every sentence with a wild shake of his head. And didn't we learn after that sound guy that we need to cherish every moment? Is that what you took from that? I understand you're worried, but never fear. Nora grinned as a sparkle came to her eye. We're friends, and what are friends for if not to give you strength and toss you into the situation you know you want to be in? Nora's words were inspiring and heartfelt. Kiba suddenly felt the momentary wave of fear fade, and his scored swell. Unfortunately, fear returned as Nora effortlessly picked him up and decided to make the toss your friend thing literal. Yahoo! Kiba landed right next to Neon across the clearing. There was some screaming of panic at his sudden crashing, and even more people muttering and whispering in worry. He remained totally still through everything as the orange-haired faunus knelt by his side and poked his frame. Nora froze in fright after throwing her friend. She blinked a few times before looking up to see Naruto and Ren both staring at her. She tried to give a confident laugh. So there's a very real chance I just killed Kiba. Thankfully, they spotted Kiba finally starting to move again as Neon helped him to his feet. They watched the faunus ask how he came flying through the air. He wiped the dust off his clothes and started speaking with her as they waited for some kind of response. Neon smiled and waved him goodbye before he started making his way back. Hey, that went pretty well. You're well. And Nora couldn't finish as Kiba grabbed her head and slowly started to squeeze. No, my brain! I need to eat pancakes! Next time you want to help me? Kiba see through gritted teeth. Maybe give me a little warning first. He continued to squeeze Nora's head in his hands before noticing the looks he was getting, and Naruto and Ren silently stared at him and didn't look away even as he tormented the short ginger. What? What do you mean, what? What did the girl say? Oh! Kiba looked up and thought before he smiled. I need to find a place to party by tomorrow night. Ha! Naruto cheered before wrapping an arm around his partner's shoulders and grinning. Way to go, man! Congratulations! Ren patted his back. You did well. I guess I did. And all thanks to General/Mama Nora, huh? You're welcome. The girl grinned even as he squeezed her head. So where are you gonna go? This is the next hurdle. Hunting. Order, please. Mizunuzaka, I demand you calm yourself. He's a kid, and he got into a fight with other kids. How can you even let something like this go to court? Because that fight ended up with two children with broken noses, and another one with a concussion. Kiba closed his eyes as he heard his mother make to argue. And yes, I know those boys were insulting him, but your son was the one that initiated the fight. They're being charged with 200 hours of community service, but your son needs to be more sternly punished. The young boy looked back at his family. His mother was taking deep, sharp breaths through her nose in an effort to calm herself down. Her ears were standing up in a clear sign of her anger, while the pair sitting beside her were laid down flatly. Kiba felt his heart fall when he saw the sad expression on Hannah's face. He let out a long sigh, disappointed and annoyed at himself for letting this happen and putting them in a situation where they had to make those faces. Kiba Nozaka, you understand the charges being brought up against you, correct? He turned around and nodded. Then for the charges of assault and battery, and with this being your first offense, I sentence you to 6 months in a juvenile correctional facility with chances of early release on good behavior. His mother slammed her fist down on the seat behind him, annoyed with the verdict, while Hannah consoled her. I'm sorry, lad. Hunting. And so how do you feel? Nervous, anxious, and feeling like my organs are gonna slip out any possible moment. Does that cover it? All that and more. Kiba gave a shaky sigh as he started to shuffle around the center of the room for all his teammates and Doc to see. He realized how stupid it was to be doing it in front of them, but he was nervous, damn it. But I can't believe this is really happening. One of us finally got a date, and it's you. While he was nervous, Tintin was excited about him asking the girl out. She had seemed so unexpectedly happy, but then remembered that it was the kind of reaction a sister would have hearing her rough little brother was finally getting along with girls. You make sure to be nice, okay? He grumbled under his breath, but reluctantly nodded. Of course, he wasn't going to be rude to her. What did they expect? She had said yes, which immediately put her up pretty high on the best girls he'd ever met first list. By the way, where are you going? She said she liked music and dancing, so I thought a club would be good. The brunette smiled at the green nods he was getting from his team, which meant it was a good idea so far. I didn't actually know any clubs myself, but Yang heard me asking around and told me a cool one to visit. Oh, that was nice of her. Yeah, and then I wanted some good service. I just had to tell them that I was friends with Sir. She told me that they know what that meant. Don't. Sasuke suddenly spoke up for the first time in the conversation and shook his head. Kiba, just don't do that by any means, okay? Kiba felt like he should ask to elaborate, but shrugged and decided to just assure Sasuke on the matter. He looked down at the time on his scroll and nodded. Okay, it's about time. Guess I'll be. Hold on, mister. And Tintin sprung from her bed and stopped him with a hand on his chest. You're going out to a club and you're dressed like that. Be a little more mindful. Kiba looked over his jacket before Tintin shook her head when she realized he didn't know what she was talking about. Your hoodie is gonna catch in other people swinging arms. You'll be bumping into others even more than you're supposed to if that gets caught. So maybe you shouldn't go wearing it. Okay, I guess that makes sense. He cupped his chin and thought before he started seeing her logic. He wasn't very fond of dancing, but if they were going to a club, then it'd probably be expected. With a reluctant nod, he shrugged it off and tossed it on his bed. He pulled on his black undershirt. How about this? A little tighter, but you've got the right idea. She nodded approvingly while Kiba smiled at finally getting on the right track. Now make sure you talk to her. There's no reason going out if you both separate when you get there, and it's a club, so there will probably be some seedy guys that so watch out. You're really gonna hound me on this, aren't you? Yes, I am. Protection. Naruto piped up with a smile as he lounged on his bed. Good idea to bring some protection. That's actually a good idea. Kiba took his partner and made his way over to his bed. He patted Akamaru's head before reaching under his bed and pulling out the desired box. Can't believe I'm actually using these. Dude, what the fuck? All of his teammates looked surprised by what he pulled out as he opened the box. What? You still bring protection? I meant your tonfa. What, do you have a box of those things under your bed? Have you had them this whole time? Even Sasuke had to inquire about the oddity of what they were witnessing. My sister gave them to me before I came to Beacon and said if the situation ever occurred, I had to be ready. Your sister, the same one that gave you a cat calendar, Tintin asked incredulously, gave you a box of condoms. She's a doctor. If her little brother came home contracting an STI, she'd take it as a personal insult. Kiba poked one colorful plastic in his back pocket. Plus, I'm not actually expecting anything to happen. Just always good to be prepared. Then sighed but gave a small hum. Well, I guess I should at least be happy you're being safe. And I'm not bringing my tonfa. Kiba finally responded to Naruto as the fox still looked flabbergasted by the prophylactics he'd only now realized was in his room. It might give people the wrong idea, and I'm trying to avoid a fight. He fixed himself up and headed for the door. Now I'm off. Kiba, what? He looked back and saw his team give him thumbs up and quick lines of encouragement. He smiled and waved goodbye. Wish me luck. Hunting. So how you doing up? I'm fine. The 12-year-old waved off his sister's concern from the other side of the table. Not nearly as bad as everyone thinks it is. Plus, I've been on my best behavior. Hannah looked skeptical for that claim as he grinned and chuckled. Okay, but I'm better than most. I'll be out fast. Don't worry about me, okay? Hannah just chuckled at his attempt to ease the situation, but he knew he succeeded as he saw tension leave her shoulders and her ears raise higher. How are things? How's the shelter? What about your exams? My exams are fine, and everyone is okay. Missing you. Hannah propped herself up with a hand on her cheek and smiled. Akamaru's the only one who can't cope. He stays in your room every day waiting for you to come back. That broke his heart. His best friend missed him, and he missed that damn papa more than anything. He didn't want to admit how many times coming home and seeing him run up to his feet had cheered him up during the day. The young brunette stuffed down his worry and forced a smile. Well, I'll be back soon, so no worries. He looked up again and saw the smile had fallen from his sister's face for a much more complicated expression. Her ears lowered as she hung her head. I wish you hadn't fought those kids, Kiba. You should know by now how to handle people like that. It's bad enough that they said what they said about me, but they said you shouldn't even be allowed to study medicine. Kiba scowled. How the most an animal should aspire to be is a vet's favorite pet. They felt like they had the privilege to talk down about you and Mom, so I put them in their place on the ground, flat on their asses. Kiba, Hannah spoke much more critically. You're never going to be able to grow up if you keep flying off the handle at comments like that. No one wants a vet who can't control himself to watch over their pets. He gave an angry groan, and Hannah tried to continue, but they heard a call from the guards saying visitations were ending. Kiba stood out of his chair and walked away before waving back at Hannah with a smile. I know it's bad, but I'll do my best to keep my wits. Sis, I'll see you soon. Take care, little brother. Please. Hunting. Whoa! Neon gasped as they walked inside to all the flashing lights and glaring music. Kiba could barely hear his own thoughts over the music, but could still hear the gleeful squeal of his data. Atlas clubs have nothing on this place. They're so small and rigid and calm compared. Oh, is that a beer? I think that's a guy in a bear mask. Kiba yelled over the racket. Come on! The Atlas student wrapped her arms around his and pulled him around the side of the dance floor. I see a table. When they finally got there, Kiba doubled the furniture could actually be called a table, and the table was small and the chairs were literally high up. But he guessed that was normal for a club. I guess they can't spare the waiters. Neil noted and looked around at the spare number of people taking orders and running between tables. Her bright orange tail lowered as she frowned. That means we'll have to go to the bar to get drinks, which sucks. You know your stuff, Kiba noted as the cat fondness puffed out her chest and snickered proudly. You better believe it. You asked that as his #1 club crawler, and I know everything there is to the party scene. Neon reached behind her and pulled out some glow sticks with a big smile. You better get ready for a super crazy night of fun. I guess I'll trust you, which made it easy for him because he was completely unfamiliar with these kinds of settings. After Neon gave an affirmative nod, there was a sudden lull of silence between them that contrasted with the ear-splitting music around them. Kiba awkwardly looked up towards the ceiling in an effort to calm his nerves before coughing into his fist. So, what's it like in Atlas? I hear it's cold. Do you got to wear warm clothes or want to dance? Less talking, more dancing. Got it. And Kiba was more than willing to skip the stilted conversation and accompany the girl on the dance floor. He couldn't really dance, but he sucked more at small talk. Plus, Neil was beaming as she pulled him towards the center floor, so he couldn't argue. She slipped into the massive pit of people that bounced and jumped in rhythm. The music was blaring and honestly kind of hurt with his ears still recovering. People nudged and bumped into him. It was hard to have fun there, but Neil was enjoying it. She smiled smiled and cheered and followed the beat of the music perfectly. The Atlas girl looked like she was having fun, and she definitely looked good while doing it. Her enjoyment was enough reason for him to power through and dance as well, bobbing in place to try and match her. Time passed quickly after that. They spent a while on the dance floor. Some guys had attempted to nudge him out of the way so they could get a chance to dance with Neon themselves. Unfortunately for them, Kiba nudged back much harder. There was a round of laughter when the guys fell over each other on the dance floor. Afterwards, they stepped aside and headed to the bar for some drinks. Neon had far better results of actually getting in order to the bartender. When they got back to a table, they both started to chug the drinks. He struggled to keep it down, but Neon fared worse with how it tasted. Despite the grimace on their faces, they both laughed and finished their cups. And Neon started to retell stories and experiences she had in Atlas, animatedly waving her arms around what she did. Kiba told some in return, mixing up names and aspects to not incriminate him and his friends. He wasn't going to tell her they took down a crime boss, but she certainly seemed enthused at his tale of them confronting the bully that had been harassing his teammates for so long. The fawn swooned when he pulled out his scroll and started showing her pictures of the animals from his shelter. She even admitted the puppies and dogs were cute, noting that she had seen him walking around with Akamaru a few times. She looked nervous, but stated she wouldn't mind meeting him again in order to make a better impression. That instantly made her more accountable than Naruto and braver than Blake. He was nervousness about their date quickly faded as he and Neon talked more. Whatever hesitation he had coming in was gone now. He thought that the night was going to be smooth from here on out, which is why it sucked when they tripped over a wire and spilled the drinks over the suit of some intimidating guy. They shot back up and apologized, but quickly found themselves cut off by another guy in similar clothes behind them. Neon could only laugh nervously while Kiba muttered a quiet curse. Who are these two supposed to be? They were pulled into a booth in the clubs for VIPs. There was a rotund man with a double sitting comfortably with several similarly dressed men guarding him on all sides. He had an air of irritation and probably had the muscle around him to take care of it. Any reason you're bringing kids back here? Well, sir, these brats spilled the drinks on me, and now it's ruined, and you wanted to tattle to me? I wasn't aware I was hiring children to protect me. Kima and Neon stood together silently as the men they spilled the drinks on was dressed down by his boss. Then Nuzaka looked around the room, noticing the couple sitting across from the boss, who looked haggard and jittery. He also noted the assortment of colored products that littered the table between them. Oh, it was a deal, and the asshole behind them had brought them in at the worst possible moment. I don't care if they dirty your suit or shot you to the chest. You don't. I repeat, don't interrupt these meetings or bring others back here either. First rule, you idiots. The grumpy large man finally regarded the two teens. Neon laughing nervously as Kiba just gave him a stern look. The older man sighed and rubbed his temple. Children, do you know what it means to be quiet? It's keeping your mouth shut about what you've seen here, because if by some chance word were to get out about our deals back here, we would be very upset, and we'd hate to hurt such a cute-looking couple on their date night. Kigo scowled deeper. Even after all they went through to take down that last boss, it did nothing to deter the scum. Now Totsurik was swooping in and stealing the town, and these low-level pricks were skulking around in the shadows to do their deals. Nature hated the vacuum, and apparently when one wretched jerk left that place, a ton of smaller garbage filled its place. I'm feeling generous. Leave, and I'll let you two get back to your date. And remember, mum's the word. Kiba hid his shaking fist and looked at Neon. She looked just as uncomfortable with these guys around as he did, but she knew just as well that they were unprepared for a fight. They both nodded for the criminal's gracious offer and turned around to walk away. Later, he'd come back and figure out a way to settle this. Junior is letting this place go. How is he supposed to be taken seriously when he lets animals like that walk around without a leash? Just words from some low-life prick. They wouldn't risk of the fight. It was better to just let it go. That was what every rational part of his brain said as he turned around and snarled at the fat man. Apologize. Excuse me, the lounging crook glared. The fuck did you just say to me, boy? Did I fucking stutter? He heard Neon protest behind him. I said. His mouth snapped shut when he felt a gun get pressed into the side of his head. One of the bodyguards had pulled his weapon and had him at gunpoint. Kiba's curse was drowned out by the fired shot. hunting. Kiba's blood went cold as he looked up at the TV. The other kids and even the guards were staring at the news in shock. Once again, we're not sure what brought on this change in motivation and operation, but multiple sites around the kingdom have called in reporting the same thing. The White Fang's sudden change has followed with panic and distress from the masses. We asked some people on the streets what they think about this sudden. Kiba stood up and walked out. No one seemed to notice or even care, too preoccupied with watching the rest of the story, and he really couldn't blame them, except the shock had already passed through his system, and now he was dealing with the worry and nausea that took place. This was bad, absolutely terrible. In fact, the White Fang had never been able to make massive strides in their goal for equality, but they did provide a pillar of hope, and now they were dropping their peaceful talks in favor of scare tactics and weapons, which meant when they were stopped and apprehended, things would only be worse for Faunus. Probably not on a grand scale, like having their rights revoked or being seen as public enemies, but it was just enough for all the bigots and angry people in the world to justify their prejudice. What happened to Mom's shelter in practice? Would Hannah be kicked out of her course if they were hurt by this just because some assholes decided to risk everything? Look who it is! He let an internal groan when he heard the chuckles of some surrounding nobodies. He looked up to see one of the more vicious inmates in the detention facility with his posse by his side. That was the deal with these kinds of places. They either held people that were terrified and had no idea why they were there, or they held ones who knew exactly what they had done, and somehow Kiba had found himself in this guy's eye from day one. So we hear about what the flea bags are up to. Surprised they finally pulled the tails out from between the legs. Now at least so when they're all exterminated, we'll have a time and date of when they screwed up. Fuck this guy. Kiba narrowed his eyes as he walked by him and his friends. They attempted to get a right from him, but he blocked them out. Just ignore him. Your family's a bunch of mutts, ain't they? Bet you were lucky to be the only one born normal out of those line of freaks. Still might make you a little tainted, but better than the rest of them. So let me ask, when time comes, you gonna stick with humans or get put down with animals? Don't you ever shut up? Kiba finally cracked, having to listen to the brainless racist drivel. Maybe you should care less about faunus and learn more about when someone is just not that interested in listening to you blather on about nothing. Seriously, you bringing down the collective IQ every time you speak. The fuck you say to me, animal lover? I said it. Kiba turned around and paled to see the racist teen holding a sharp object in his hand. He saw the two others that followed him everywhere stand by his side to face Kiba. They just gulped before stealing himself. I said no one wants to hear you yap, you racist asshole. Kiba quickly braced himself for the tackle of one of the other juveniles after his leader told him to. Kiba slammed his knee into the sternum of the teen wrapped around his chest before their hold weakened and he could land a punch. Just as he left one on the ground, he was pushed back into the wall by another kid, and this one had pinned his arm against Kiba's throat and was cutting off his air. The brunette gasped, the sea in the corner of his vision starting to haze over with the vicious look on the other boy's face still hovered over him. Kiba gasped for air when he finally freed himself after catching the teen in the eye. The older boy fell over, clutching his face as Kiba looked over. Ha! Kiba jumped back and held his arm tightly before pulling away to see blood coating his palm. He looked up in shock before quickly found himself being tackled off his feet. He was pinned to the ground and threw punch after punch, trying to force his attacker off, but gagged away and a hand slammed down on his throat. He tried to knock the person off of him, but the older boy ignored his flail and held his sanding weapon over Kiba before growling, "Wanna be just like those faunus fuckers? Okay, let me make you one." Kiba screamed. He wished he hadn't, but he screamed as the older boy dragged the sharp end of the knife down Kiba's cheek. The young brunette could feel his skin get carved up, and for a moment through the pain he felt the warm sensation of blood go down his face. With one side finished, he felt the psychopath start on his other cheek. Kiba tried to glare up at the monster attacking him, tears sticking his eyes as he felt the pain wash over him. "Get back!" The boy was tackled off of him by a guard and pinned to the ground as he screamed and cursed at the top of his lungs. The boys were apprehended and shoved to the side as one guard came to check on him. Kiba could only gasp for air and cover his face as he tried to power through the pain. It hurt so much. hunting. His ears were hurting again, and didn't help that a gun went off right by his head. But unfortunately, the person who tried to shoot him was hurting a lot more when Kiba grabbed his wrist and forced his arm up to fire into the ceiling. The other guards panicked and reached for the weapons. The man Kiba had a hold on was pulled off of his feet and thrown into the others as they tumbled over each other. Threats and curses flew from all sides as Kiba saw another guy come at him from behind with the weapon. But before the guard could get close, Neon kicked him in the back of the head and floored him in one move. Neon met his surprised look and gave him a confident grin as she raised her fist. Kiba nodded and they charged in. The fat criminal barking orders for his men to kill them quickly. It didn't take long for Kiba and Neon to knock the guards around. Drinks and drugs flung out all over the booth. The fat crook finally getting off of his feet and escaped while his men were dealt with. The orange cat swept the leg out from the last man standing as Kiba punched him out of the booth room and into the club proper. The two walked out to see people heading for the exit after the gunshots. The criminals ran, but Kiba and Neon suddenly found themselves being surrounded again. Instead of personal bodyguards, these ones dressed in black and red, signifying they were the club's personal muscle for a problem like this. Before they could give their case, the men around them quickly pulled out collapsible batons and swords to fight with. He slumped over as Neon looked at him oddly. I didn't bring my weapons. Didn't think I'd need them. Shit, Naruto's never gonna let me live this down. That's silly. Neon chuckled before reaching behind her and pulling out a sturdy wire. She connected them to her glow stick and grinned coyly as she started swinging her nunchucks around. She wrinkled her eyebrows. How's that? Clever. Guess I can leave most of them to you. And Kiba cracked his knuckles and smirked alongside the girl beside him. Let's go. And Kiba charged ahead into a group of guards while Neon slipped to the side. Never miss a beat. She didn't have nearly as much mobility without her skates, but she was still quick enough to avoid their swings. One guard swung for her head, but she quickly bent back as it sailed over her head. She popped and brought her nunchuck down on the man's head before quickly striking over his whole body. She slipped by him as he toppled over and struck another guard in his knee before he could attack. Neon leapt off his back as he toppled over and landed a jump kick to the face of another goon. The speedy Faunus kept skipping down the line, weaving between every hired thug and slamming her weapon into the weak points. They may have more people, but they didn't have her experience or training. Neon felled a dozen of them and left a line of moaning men on the ground. She chuckled in time to hear a frightened scream and looked up to see Kiba have one guard over his head and throw him like a sack into another group. Well, he didn't have weapons or much strategy, but when you had the stats to boast, then why waste them? Neon came running to his side, and Kiba must have known she was coming because he reached a hand out to her. He quickly pulled the Atlas student off her feet and spun her around to land kicks into the side of several guards. Neon slipped from his hand and kicked off one man's chest to send him sprawling. Kiba roared and charged in after she landed to knock several of them up into the air. It was quickly becoming obvious that they had this under control. Enough! A booming voice stopped all the fighting at once as the hired muscles gulped and shuffled off to the side. Kiba and Neon looked around in surprise, still in their stances as a well-dressed man with a beard strode up through the center of his men. Following behind him were two short girls, twins and dressed very different, with one wearing exclusively red while the other was clad in white. He looked around at the damages caused and the men knocked on their asses before groaning. Never weak. We never get weak. Neon and Kiba shared a look as they realized he was the owner and considered what they had done. You two! He pointed them out and hardly sounded accommodating. Could you tell me why you decided to wreck up my club on such a short notice, and how you're going to pay for damages, and barring that, surrender a pound of flesh as compensation? Neon leaned in. What do we do? Hold on. Kiba stepped forward. Hey, listen, this was an accident, I swear. We didn't mean for this to happen. Just one misunderstanding and some poor choices on my part. I can see that. But look, I think we both have a mutual friend. Junior raised an eyebrow skeptically. She's shit. What did she say? Damn it, sir. I know, sir. The blonde girl with the fluffy hair. We're friends with her? Oh, that makes sense. Hey, gang, actually you pulled through. Milsha, hold those two off while I grab the bazooka. Never mind, Sasuke was right. Don't trust Yang. Before Kiba could rectify his mistake, he found a white blur coming for him and a boot for his face. He had to jerk to the side to avoid the swift kick, but quickly found himself being pushed back by the white-clad girl and her speedy kicks. Neon couldn't come to his aid before the red-clad girl jumped in and swung for the fawn's head with her claws. Neon diverted her swipes with the swing of her nunchucks. The two started trading blows as Milsha's claws were scraped and clattered against her weapon. The red-clad girl kicked for Neon's legs, but she easily jumped over them and landed a foot back. However, Milsha spun on her heel and swung her arm out to force the hunters on the defensive. Neon finally raised her nunchucks up to block the claw and stopped the ebony-haired girl's movement completely. Neon looked strained but smiled cheekily at her opponent. Well, I can't believe I actually blocked that. You have such a strong swing. Is that from the extra meat on your arms or what? The girl attempted to look stoic, but the twitching of her eye and the angry hue that started to brighten her pale expression betrayed her. The girl growled, I'm gonna totally skin you alive for that. Fair, but first this. Neon snapped the glow stick and they glow green. The fauna separated from the angry red girl and slipped under her wide swing before slamming her nunchuck into the girl's leg and watching it completely knock the girl off her feet. Milsha sprawled through the air before landing on her hands and knees in shock. She looked up in time to yelp as Neon swung her nunchucks into her side and sent the red-clad girl flying with her wind dust. She spun her weapon at her side and smirked as Milsha landed on the other side of the club. Never miss a beat. Stop! And Kiba blocked the kick with his arm, but was knocked aside when he spun around and landing it in his chin. Kicking! Her flurry of kicks landed over his whole body before she swiped it from her knee. He dropped to it and quickly found himself in line with the blade of her heel. The beacon stood ducked and then reached for her other leg before she kicked off it and somersaulted away from his reach. Me! No! Melanie responded and flicked her hair over her shoulder with a frown. And can you just, die already? You're really annoying. No. Kiba stood back up and rolled his shoulders. You're gonna have to hit harder than that to keep me down. Okay. Melanie dashed in and slammed her foot into his guts. Kiba doubled over and reached out to grab her again, but the white-clad guard dropped to the ground and swept his legs out. He dropped to the ground and could only look up in time to see Melanie raise her foot over his head. She dropped down like a hammer and slammed the blade of her heel directly on his face. The bodyguard smirked at her victory. He had a lot of aura, and she knew she wasn't wasting much ground in dwindling it down. But one swift strike to the head and she had won. But when she tried to pull her feet back and she didn't budge an inch, then she started to worry. The larger boy slowly started to lift himself back onto his feet. Melanie hopped on one foot and paled as she realized she couldn't pull her other back to her side. The white-clad girl's expression matched her clothes as she realized the blade of her foot was between the tattooed boy's teeth. He looked towards her, and Melanie could do nothing but squeak at the vicious look in his eyes. He spun and released his bite, sending the twin sister flying across the dance floor and crashed into some tables with a yelp. He ran his tongue along a small cut inside his cheek and grumbled. Neon skipped to his side. How was yours? Good. Just riled up a little and sent her flying. You caught her foot in my teeth and spun her around. Cool. Cool. Neon smiled and looked around. I think it's enough for us to head. Eep! Kiba tackled her to the ground while rockets flew over their heads and exploded over them. The two hunters in training separated and looked up to see Junior stepping out from behind the bar with a rocket launcher over his shoulder. He scowled at them. It took me long enough. Watch out! Neon pushed Kiba aside and jumped back as the Malachite twins struck where they had been lying. The two angry girls then charged after the fauna stood to double team her. The orange-haired student kept jumping back, swinging her nunchuck out out to counter their kicks and swings. Were you looking? Kiba turned back in time to see rockets landing in front of him and cover him in fire and smoke. He coughed and swept smoke away before glaring up at the club owner. If Blondie's friends think they can keep coming here and wreak havoc, then they've got another thing coming. Kiba growled and kicked off the ground in the sudden sprint towards Junior. The old man just raised his rocket launcher and fired another round of rockets. Kiba yelled and raised his guard as he took the brunt of the explosions, praying that his aura could withstand it a little longer. As he activated his semblance to boot, he leapt out of the smoke and jumped at Junior. Junior evaded to the side and shifted his bazooka into a bat. The older man spun it around at his side and brought it down as Kiba met it with his fist. With the exact strength behind his punches, he knocked the bat back over and over again. The echoes between his punches and Junior's swings carried out over the whole club. A dull pain started to ache up his arm and from trying to match the massive bat in power, but he refused to yield. His punches started to pick up speed while Junior struggled to match his pace. He threw them faster and faster as Junior actually had to step back to avoid being caught in the barrage. He roared and threw a punch for Junior's head. He missed just a few inches out of reach as Junior stepped back. The older man brought the end of the bat's grip into Kiba's chin to stagger him. With the young brunette distracted, Junior roared, bringing his bat back around and down at Kiba's head hard enough to splinter the ground. And Kiba powered through the pain and shrugged off the tack to his crown. He grabbed the bat hard enough to crack its top before bringing a fist down on the rest of its body. It snapped in two, and Junior gawked before Kiba lashed out again. Junior was knocked off his feet and sent sailing into the drink supply. Glass and booze exploded out everywhere as he flopped behind the bar. Kiba panted with haggard breath before Junior popped up from behind the counter with firearm. Why you wait, stop, just stop, please. Kiba raised his hands up defensively before Junior could fire. The cloner was taking deep breaths and had his gun trained on him, but hadn't taken the shot. Kiba nodded and looked over to see Neon with frazzled hair holding her nunchucks up defensively as the twin sisters were panting with fierce expressions. Kiba exhaled and rubbed his head before turning back to Junior. Okay, I know this has gotten really carried away, and we've been hitting each other, and that's usually enough to keep a fight going, but I'm sorry, we weren't trying to start a fight, we weren't trying to wreck your club, and in hindsight, I should have considered the fact Yang was calling herself Sir to be a major problem, but we don't want to fight. Are you kidding? Junior scoffed before groaning and lowering his gun. Of course, Blondie's friends have to make things difficult. He dropped his gun on the counter, but kept scowling at the hunters and training. Okay, well, you're going out your way to apologize, so that makes things different. Great. Don't change the fact that you wrecked up the place, ruined my drinks, assaulted me and my girls, and made me once again reconsider the effectiveness of my men. So why, Junior? The fat criminal came from before. Came sauntering over with a malicious scowl, pointing towards Kiba and Neon. Why are you even talking to these people? They attacked me in your establishment. You need to kill them. Is that true? Junior turned to Kiba, the criminal made to speak again, but Junior quickly silenced him with a raised hand as he kept his eyes on Kiba. Did you attack him? We weren't trying to start a fight. Kiba admitted. We spilled drinks. We were brought back to his booth. He wanted us to keep quiet about some drugs he was peddling. He made a racist comment to my friend, and one of his guys pulled the gun. Hold up. Drugs? Junior slowly turned towards the chubby crook, who went still under the scrutinizing glare. The well-dressed owner fixed his hair and tie before spitting to the side. Were you selling drugs in my establishment without my knowledge? Is that the problem here, Junior? Are you gonna make these two? You two can go. Junior waved offhandedly as they all looked at him in surprise. He jerked his head to the side. Melanie, Milsha, can you help me make this guy comfortable? The two sisters grumbled but quickly followed Junior's orders. You two can leave, but you're banned for life. I'm cool with that. Neon grabbed Kiba and pulled him to the exit. You guys have great music, by the way. The both paled as they heard the races. Crook tried to talk his way out of it, but could hear knuckles cracking from here. Better to just run now before they actually got blamed for everything. Hunting No one said anything as he walked into his home. He slowly strode forward through the house, hearing his mother Hannah speak up behind him about what he wanted to eat for his first day back. He ignored them. He ignored most of the animals that stayed in their home, that stayed in their home, who finally got to see him again after his long period away. When he finally got to leave and come back, he thought he would find comfort in the familiar smell of their house. He didn't. Kiba pushed the door open to his room and heard the occupant inside. A little white pup was already at his feet, yipping and barking for his attention. But when he knelt down in front of him, Akamaru's happiness quickly turned to sadness and little whimpers. The cheeks he always licked when he was excited were covered in dark red bandages. But despite the changes, Kiba did feel a little happier when Akamaru kicked up into his lap and settled down in it. The scarred boy let out a long sigh as Akamaru napped, and he ran a hand through his fur. Kiba, Hannah came up to his feet and looked down to see Akamaru comforting him. His older sister's ears lowered on her head as she tried to cheer him up as well. If you want the others are waiting to say hello to you too, they've been waiting a long time, and just take your time. Sis, he finally spoke up for the first time since they had picked him up. I don't want to be a vet anymore. I want to be a huntsman. What? Seriously? Yeah, I've decided that's what I'm going to be now. Keep him. I know this. He looked up at her, and he noticed her pause to stare at the bandages that hid the scars that marked his face now. She swallowed and continued. This was unfair and awful, and I swear if the boys who did this to you ever show their faces again, then I will make them pay. But you can't just be a hunter to get back. I'm not. He cut her off, startling Akamaru and silencing his sister. Mom's already a veterinarian, and you're going to be a doctor. I have to do something to help too. But I think this is the way I have to do it. He nodded and looked up at his sister. This is what I wanted to do. Are you sure? She asked while he gave a firm nod. He was never going to forget what happened to him, but he refused to let it break or hinder him, and he knew now what it was that he wanted to do. So then, what are you going to do now? He would just touched his cheeks and flinched from the still painful sensation of his healing skin. His eyes narrowed. Hunting. Sorry about tonight. He apologized to the girl walking ahead of him. They had been silent since leaving the club, and he was the first to strike up a conversation as they made their way through Vale. I didn't mean for it to get so crazy. It's fine. Neon giggled as she unhooked her glow stick and slid them into her pockets. That was definitely one of the more hectic nights I've had partying. It's easily top 5. Still, I kind of wanted this to be a nice date. Instead, it turned out into a fight. I told you it's not. It's fine. Neon waved off his worry before turning around and walking backwards. Not the first time I've had to hear people like that saying those things to me, but you shouldn't go engaging with guys like that just to protect my honor, like a chivalrous knight. I didn't. Kiba piped up on reflex. They both stopped walking as Neon looked at him in confusion. I mean, I did. Part of this was you, but the other part was to make him stop. I know it was stupid to try and make him apologize like that. Kiba sighed and shook his head. I've always been like that, actually. What do you mean? I mean, when I hear someone start tossing comments and names like that without any hesitation, it just always makes me so goddamn mad. Kiba scratched his head. My mom is honest, and so is my older sister. I didn't really know my dad because he just up and left us when I was a kid, so they're the ones who raised me, the only human in a family fondness. And so there were a lot of jokes thrown my way, both about my family and how I didn't belong with anyone. His eyes furrowed. I got into a lot of trouble growing up because I didn't exactly take those jokes in passing. Guess it was a lot like earlier. You have no idea. He gave a dry chuckle. And despite how many times it happened, I never grew out of it. I always started fights whenever someone made a comment about my family, like they were less than them, like they didn't even have to bother knowing them to deem them worthless. Even the thought made his shoulders shake before he calmed down. Like what the guy said to me. He looked towards the ground but gave a small nod to her question when he heard that the arrogant prick speak down to her like she was an animal. He just lost his control for a moment. Nin could let it slide because she knew what that man said meant nothing to her, but that didn't mean that he should be ignored either. He could see Neon at it in some form of understanding. So, did you become a huntsman just to protect fondness? No, not just Faunus. He shook his head. After the White Fangs started to change their operation, a lot of Faunus started to fight back, attacking people that started treating them wrongly, but also hurting some innocent people as well. Neither side is exactly innocent. You want to bring total equality to humans and Faunus everywhere? Are you kidding? Look at me. He turned around to better showcase himself with a self-deprecating smile that made Neon giggle as well. I'm hardly the kind of guy that brings unity and peace between all people. No, I'm gonna be fine just making sure they don't fight so much. Do my best to help out the smaller communities, show that each side has something to offer, and if they're still gonna hate each other, then at least they can hate the person and not the extra parts they may or may not have. Neon burst out laughing, holding her side as she bent over. She wiped a tear from her eyes. You know, you almost sounded like a superhero before you added in that total real stuff at the end. He just shrugged in response. Well, I guess that's a good start. Who knows? Maybe you'll bring peace just doing that stuff, huh? Akiba wanted to joke again, but froze when Neon came to his side and left a kiss on his cheek. He looked at her in surprise as she smiled. Come on, the night is still young and the date is still on. Let's go see a movie or something. Akiba raised a hand to his cheek, feeling where she had kissed him, and no doubt where she felt the faded tissue underneath his tattoo. His shock quickly changed to joy as he called after her about what direction the cinema was. Hey, just because the date went wild didn't mean it was over. Hunting. You make sure to thank this guy when you see him, okay? His mother warned. I check his cancer, so your aura unlocking and training is a favor for that help. You be polite, got it? Yeah, I know. He grabbed his drink and his bag before heading for the door. I'm off. Kiba. He stopped her from closing the door and looking back at Santa's mouth. I love your new tattoos, by the way. He grinned and swept a finger over the new marks on his face. The scars weren't too flattering, so he decided to cover them with some ink thanks to a helpful suggestion from a regular visitor of theirs. They were meant to be a mark of shame. He was going to wear them as a mark of pride. His red fangs were always going to remind him what he wanted to protect him. Extra gaming session part 1. Hunting. Ruby. Noobs! The hooded girl cackled maliciously and continued to snipe and execute people across the entire map as exasperated angry voices melded together in a cacophony over the mic. Ruby just chuckled. Fools! You never had a chance. The Reaper has descended on your battlefield and she's dressed in red. The rest of her friends looked at her in shock before turning to her older sister. Yang shook her head. This is why I don't let her play shooters. Yang, coward, you knaves! The boxer cheered as she beat her opponent to a pulp before they could even throw a punch. With them stunned, she yelled and shoved her hand into her opponent's chest. With a squelch, she pulled out their spine and waved it over her head as the corpse fell limply to the ground. The throne is mine. I am the best. Fear me! Ruby dropped her controller and crossed her arms petulantly before looking back at the pale faces of her friends. This is why I don't let her play fighters. John, another round? Naruto growled as he wiped the sweat from his brow and stepped up to the colorful pads placed in the middle of the room. You ain't gonna beat me again. Sorry, Naruto, but when it comes to Dance Grim Evolution, only Ren has ever tied me. John sent a quick nod towards his partner, and the monk returned to him. No way you're gonna beat us both. Just watch. Go. Naruto started stomping his feet to the rhythm while John effortlessly kept up the pace. The others were watching from the side while they caught their breath. Never thought the day would come when I see him beat us in anything. Wai said with a red face as she caught her breath. This is unbelievable. You know what's crazy? Yang nudged her side. I'm sure I could punch Pyrrha right now, and she still wouldn't take her eyes off of his butt. Why I should have figured your choice would be so boring. Quite, the hare said with a frown towards the dossiers as she turned back to the screen. This is a simulator. It allows you to invest your capital and make choices with a real-time response in an effort to increase your own portfolio. Oh my God, Weiss, you're making us accountants. The white-haired girl glowered before Blake's point. Oddly enough, some people are having fun. Invest it all in cookies, dough, ice cream, chocolate chip, peanut butter, but not raisins. Never raisins. Pancakes, nothing but pancakes. Sell. I haven't seen my husband in 70 years. He has worries. He has needs. I feel like she's referring to me. Ren spoke up, and I don't have needs. Sasuke, get the double swords. No, the hammer. Grab the hammer. That is the most damage. Sigil chain has the best range. Sasuke, I'm your partner. Pick the staff. Sigil will cut through everyone. No, sword. He picked it up, and they all gasped at his choice. Plain and simple. You're going up against 1,000 enemies, and all you're going to use is a sword. Are you crazy? The Uchiha rolled his shoulders back before a smirk settled on his face. Watch me. Nora, there was smoke, fire, through the haze and the ringing in his ears. He could still hear people screaming out for salvation, but it was never coming. They were fools for letting this happen. They should have known. They should have known. They should have been prepared. John felt someone help him to his feet and saw Ren support him with an arm over his shoulder. His teammates dragged him out before muttering, "This is why we don't let her wear the VR goggles. I'm losing the patient. Someone get me the laser scalpel and a pizza cutter." End of chapter 54.